Welcome to this week's auction videos for the second week of February, with auctions ending anywhere from Friday the 7th to Sunday the 9th. Sorry we missed you last week. We were both very ill and it would not have been good. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with this pied 100% a het albino breeder female. Now we showed this off on the live stream on Tuesday, but it has since meet and beat the reserve, which is a very low reserve. It was a lot less right now than what I paid for the exact same breeders from the exact same breeder. So on that, I've got a thing or two I can say about Royal Constrictor Designs quality, and it's very good. I still have these animals with me today. I still create albino pieds. Had produced quite a bit. It was one of the first ones I produced a bunch of. I invested quite a bit and I made my monies back and then some. I still love the project, just kind of creating these. I don't know honestly how much further I even want to go with these. I just kind of sentimental working just the albino pieds for me, although I should probably add a little bit of something to it eventually. Regardless, this is a great female to get and at a really good price. It will go up, I imagine, but a proven breeder. Looks like she wasn't bred for the last 2 years. She's pretty big and obviously rested up, so you could probably get her and plug her into your projects right away, especially if you want to start working those albino pieds. Albino pieds are awesome. I love creating them. We actually expanded, I should say we did technically expand. We started doing the Candinos, which was an easy slot in, since Candy and albino are lilac. I like them honestly a little bit better because the lavenders kind of set themselves apart rather than the two-toned yellows that a lot of these albinos end up becoming. Regardless, a very beautiful animal. And there's another one also from Royal Constrictors, a different route to go, but this Pastel lesser clown, also a breeder. Looks like it was not bred last year, so she is ready to go again. Proven breeders like this can really slot in for someone who's just beginning. It's a good pathway to take, in my opinion, because you can make some pretty decently cool things, and on top of that, you're not investing a whole bunch, but yet you're getting a whole bunch of experience. This is a great way that if you want to start doing this and you want to see if maybe the breeding part is for you, this is one of the better ways to get the experience, rather than having to raise up a $3,000 animal and then maybe after all that raising you're just like, this isn't for me. But it's a good way for you to get some experience under your belt before you start investing if you don't know if it's right for you. They're all but guaranteed to get you something. Of course, there's never 100% a guarantee, but having a proven breeder is always a pretty nice way to get some confidence under your belt and get going. And then on top of that, you can make cool things still. Lesser clowns are amazing. Either one of these, depending on the route you wanted to go, clown or pied, or heck, why not do both and save on shipping? Next up would be this beautiful Sunset YellowBelly. There's a lot of upside here because for one, you've got a visual Sunset YellowBelly here, and two, it's got most of the work put into it for getting it to breeding size. It's right up there. You don't have to put much into it. You might be able to go super late this year, or definitely I would imagine by next year, and it's a visual female on top of that. So there's a lot of different routes you can go. I really liked the Ultramel that just recently was made, the Sunset Ultramel. I think that might have taken over as my favorite from the banana Sunset, but they're easy to quote unquote keep the brown out away. I mean, heck, this one's really nice. The brown out, by the way, is the only knock I ever hear on Sunset, and that is a fact, but there's a lot of animals in it, so why are Sunsets being singled out? I never understood that, and it's very easy to combat, and that's the whole point. We're not breeding singular animals here. We're always trying to improve and create new combos and add to it and tinker. That's part of the fun, and this animal here is a good way to get set up in the Sunset project. It will go for more, and I imagine there'll be a bit of a bidding war at the end, so I can't really say for sure what this girl will end up coming in at, but rest assured it's worth it, especially with so much work put into it. Imagine the amount of money in terms of rodents that have already been put towards growing this animal up. A great opportunity here. There is no reserve, or if there was, it's already gone. So if you are into Sunset and you want to get yourself a visual female, if you've got the money, keep your eyes on this one and maybe be a player in the end game of winning this one. Keeping it with Sunset, just a quick disclaimer, by the way, there's going to be quite a few Sunsets. This is the Sunset episode apparently, so if you are into Sunset, it's a good week to do it. So here's another proven breeder this time. This one has already been to size, and this one won't go for as much because, well, it's not an actual visual Sunset, it's a het Sunset. But having a big female that's proven, looks like she laid the average 6 eggs just last year, so she's about ready to be paired up right now. And get yourself a visual male or even a het to it if you can't afford much more than that, and get some other genetics in there too, and start creating some amazing things. I actually am not the biggest fan of the Sunset Lesser myself. I'm more of that banana lavender, or those, especially that Ultramel one, but that's okay. It's still a very nice looking snake. And I do love the butter and the lesser morphs. Just not the biggest fan of it in Sunset, and that's a personal thing. You know, you might be, and here it is with it. Just don't breed it to anything else in the Bell complex, otherwise you'll end up possibly with something that has Sunset in it, but it ends up being all white anyways, and that would be no good. Anytime you can get a proven breeder though, that's a score. So I think this one would be another nice one, especially if you want to get a female to start producing some visuals and kind of beat the line on a nice project, quite frankly. Another female here, this one's a little bit smaller, and this would be this Sunset Het Hypo. This is really cool with a lot of upside. Now, no growth on this one. You are just getting a baby, but you have a visual Sunset that is Het for Hypo. So you could get a male and run it against each other, and it'd probably be much cheaper. A visual Hypo and get it Het for Sunset and create some Sunset Hypos. And those odds are pretty darn good. They're 1 in 4 of getting that. And everything that you were to get that wasn't a visual would be Het for what it isn't visual. And you only have 4 odds if you run the scenario that I just mentioned. And there's a huge amount of upside getting Hypo in the Sunset because it definitely cleans it up and keeps it bright. Another one with a whole bunch of upside to it. Like I said, this is a pretty good episode, especially if you're looking into this amazing gene that produces a sort of color that's pretty darn unique to itself. Next up would be this proven breeder male, and this male here I think will go for a lot less, especially since he does have that quote-unquote brown out happening here. You know, as they grow older, if it's just one gene, sometimes they can start to kind of look like this. Nothing wrong with it. It still definitely is a very cool and unique color. It's just not as vibrant as that, of course. And then I think that's why people said, oh, they drastically change, which they do with just one morph in some cases. Some cases I've not seen them change as much, and sometimes I have seen them change a lot. I still think this is a really nice colored snake. There's not very many that would look like this, and quite frankly, if you showed me this color pattern and many other things and said it was something else, I feel like people would lose their minds and think it was amazing. But regardless, I mean, this boy here, I feel like he'll go cheaper than most, and he has a visual Sunset. He will have one bid on there, and maybe I could be wrong. Maybe there will be a bidding war because the potential for him to be able to immediately slot into your projects and start creating you hets, double hets, all sorts of things you want to work. I mean, it's immediate. He's a proven breeder and he's to size. So you get him and you want to start working Sunset Clowns, which by the way, we'll show you here in just a moment. You want to start working the Ultramels, or what I would like to do, honestly. If I get into Sunset, I think that would be the way I do it, is a collaboration project with someone to create some double hets. That I think I'd really like, because I think that the Ultramel Sunset was absolutely gorgeous. I think the Sunset Monarch, when it gets created now, which is going to happen, I'm sure, before I get into it, I think it's going to be like knock your socks off beautiful. So a very cool opportunity here to immediately just start plugging Sunset into your projects right away. I said I was going to show a Sunset Clown. Well, from the same breeder, here's one. And these are gorgeous animals. Look at the color on that. Unbelievable. I absolutely love the Sunset Clowns. And it really, by itself, just this double recessive kind of brightens it up. Look at the flaming through there. It literally looks like a flame. These right here, they look like a torch flame. It's crazy. The colors, this orange, very unique, very vibrant. The head, a very beautiful, crisp orange. There's so much color to love here. There's just so much to love. It's such a gorgeous animal. And then you can start creating those by yourself with some of these combos if you start creating the hets. Or heck, you could buy it. And I see these go for a whole heck of a lot more. I don't know how successful it will be on auction here, but this is worth every penny of it. I'll tell you that much. You try to buy one of these and it's like, I think they were 10 grand. This is a steal. I've seen them go for that. So I'm not sure if it'll go in an auction, but it is definitely worth it. If this is the sort of thing you're looking for, if you've got this sort of moolah to slap down on an insane female, this is a great one to do. It's, like I said, I can't get over the beautiful colors of this. Sunset Clowns are so gorgeous. And then finally, another one here. This is actually a girl. I know it's not listed up there, but it says great size on her. Would be this Leopard Sunset. Another good one. It's from one of the same breeders. I think the Butter Sunset. Yep. The Butterhead Sunset, I should say. It's a visual girl at that. She's not quite halfway to size, but just pushing about halfway to size. So again, a lot of the work has been taken out of it for you. And if you wanted to work Sunset and get a visual, there's so many opportunities to get into Sunset or to bolster your Sunset projects this weekend. I definitely recommend taking a look, and it's still got a long way to go in terms of what we can do with it. Very awesome animals. The Sunset is very well represented this weekend. Moving on from Sunset Sunset is this pixel Het Genetic Stripe Het Clown. A girl at that. This is a really nice one here. I actually got my pixel from Frameship Reptiles as well. Mine is a pixel Cypress Het Genetic Stripe, and I very much like it, but I kind of want to work it into clowns. So this one already has it in there. So that's some huge upside right there. Pixel's a really cool gene. I believe it was just proven to have a super form at that too. So a whole bunch of upside and potential with the pixel. It is very ground level. If you go look on Morphmarket right now at the costs of pixels, you'll find that they are not cheap to get into. So if you want to, this is a great way to do it, because there's going to be certain people who just don't understand the pixel. Sometimes people look into these and they do it a little bit wrong. They see what's cool and hot, so they want to buy into it. But sometimes when it's already hot, it's already seeing its boom. And by the time you get an animal that's the size, the boom will be ending. It's best to get in ahead of time. And you can never guarantee if something is going to just go nuts and boom crazy like that. But when you have the rarity factor on your side and you have something that's extreme and does extreme things like this pixel does, you have a much higher chance of creating yourself a cheerleader, a champion, as I've heard it described. So that can help push the gene into an even higher stratosphere of people wanting to work it. A pixel's got a lot of upside. Like I said, it's a pixelation type gene. Makes a lot of sense being called that, right? And has a lot of granulation in there. So I'm very excited to work mine. And this one here has the Het Clown on top of it. So a lot of opportunity to immediately jump into the clown project. Before moving on with more ball pythons, we're going to jump into a few hognoses. It's actually 2 pages worth of hognoses this week. And heck, that was not the case on just Tuesday. So that is a very quick turn of events. So this is actually a decent amount for hognoses. Usually we have about a page to a half a page, quite frankly. First one I want to talk about is this Conda 100% Het Stormcloud, and Stormcloud is Xanthic and Sable. I know it shows visuals, but it's probably just uploaded incorrectly. It straight up says that they are not, and that it is Het, Sable, and Xanthic. Conda brings in these little spots, kind of makes them look like an anaconda pattern, is the thought process of it. And 2 copies of Conda. There's a super form. Actually strips all of this and just leaves the base color of the animal like this, except for the head. Like these little wings right here. I always think that they look like a bird, kind of like a phoenix or something like that, flying or taking off, and that stays. The whole head pattern stays except for the body. It just strips it completely. It's so awesome how that works, how the genetics know to just say, yeah, this is all gone, but not this. Crazy. It's insane how genetics work. The Stormcloud itself is a darker, grayer type snake, kind of like a Stormcloud, right? So it's very appropriately named. A very cool, striking looking animal. Another one here would be this Lucy Hognose, which is basically a blue-eyed Lucy. So they did make these. I remember about 5 years ago or so seeing these for the first time. They were 10 grand. Just wild. Now they're on an auction. This will probably still go over $1,000. I wouldn't be surprised to see it hit 2 or even more, quite frankly, but still quite insane to even see them on auction when there was like 2 available at Tinley once. It is a all-white snake. When these were first created in ball pythons, it was a very, very similar craze. When you first get that morph for a bit, it is pretty nuts. This is recessive though in hognoses, so it is 2 copies of I believe they just call it the Het Leucistic, and you get the actual visual Leucistic. A very cool animal, not one you see very often on here. So heck, who knows, maybe I'm wrong and this will go for an insane steal. There is no reserve, so maybe if some people are sleeping this weekend, you can snag one of the most gorgeous and unique animals amongst hognoses that slithers the planet. All right, back into the ball pythons, and from fire ball pythons would be this adult Enchi double het Dreamsicle. So if you want to get into the Dreamsicle project and you want to get a basically proven breeder, it does not look like it is proven, but it is right up to size. It looks like it's not going to take very much time at all. Dreamsicles are still awesome, and this would be a great one to start kind of, like I mentioned earlier, breeding and learning, but yet at the same time creating cool and unique animals. I definitely recommend getting Blackhead into that, because I think Blackhead and Lavender Albino is a match made in heaven. And to create a Dreamsicle would be just absolutely chef's kiss beautiful. So this is another good one if you want to start working that. The Dreamsicle, by the way, it's a combination, if I didn't mention it, Lavender Albino and Pied. For the longest time, these snakes were easily $3,000. They have since dropped. They still get a fair amount, but they were pretty dominant for a very long time. Heck, even like up to 4 years ago. Heck, I think it's even sooner than that these things are still fetching that amount. So another great one here would be this boy, a Suma Het Pied. Man, I love the Suma gene. And if it was a, pied, you would see this going for a lot more. And quite frankly, you look at the interest. Suma is a super mahogany. So this animal here has some upside. Now, usually, yes, again, you would like when you're dealing with recessives, your males to have a visual, but in a way, you can kind of sort of justify this by thinking, well, the super mahogany is kind of acting the same way as a visual recessive because it's 2 copies of the gene, and it will always pass on 1 copy of the mahogany gene. When you breed this animal, everything it breeds to and passes its progeny along will be mahogany. There's no getting around that outside of some crazy genetic freak chance. The fact of the matter is you could easily just breed this to a mahogany het pied girl, or a mahogany pied girl, I should say, which wouldn't be crazy expensive. And you have a fairly good chance of hitting the pied. In a way, it's like working the recessives against each other, like I said, because you are always passing 1 copy of mahogany along, and you have a darn good chance of getting the super mahoganies, aka the Suma, because 50% of the time, that is going to happen for you. And then with the het pied, that'll also pass on 50% of the time, but if you get yourself with a visual female that was mahogany, she will also always pass that het pied along. So you have 25% chance of creating a mahogany het pied. That'd probably be the quote-unquote worst results you could get. You have a 25% chance of hitting a Suma het pied, which would be produce what we were just looking at. You have a 25% chance of hitting a mahogany pied, which would be reproducing the female in this scenario. And then you have a 25% chance of hitting your Suma pied, which are so outstanding. I see a lot of variety in them. They almost look like they're slightly paradoxed sometimes. I like them the most, honestly, of all the dark pied that you can get. This one here from Mutation Creation kind of shows it perfectly, in my opinion, because look, that's pretty dark black. That's like very pitch black. But then look over here, it's almost like a stained mahogany, appropriately named, right? But just didn't get through all the way, and then suddenly becomes darker, and then suddenly a different shade of brown. So you have like 3 shades of brown right here, and then black, and then the same thing repeating itself with a pretty dark head. Very cool animal. Like I said, it's my favorite pied. Definitely a good one to consider if that's the sort of thing that you want to create. And then guess what? We ain't done talking about it yet, because here is a female that's mahogany pied, and it has a little bit more upside, that it's also 66% het lavender albino, and this is a girl. So you literally get these 2, and then you're doing what I said. Obviously, if you get a male and you can prove out, sending in a shed test, that this is lavender albino, you could go a different route there and try to go for the double recessive, but also Suma too. That would be intense, right? Maybe even heck work some blackhead in there. You create a very dark animal. I've seen the black pastel Suma pieds. They're just very pitch black, and guess what? No kinking issues in those at all. A very cool opportunity here. I mean, like I said, you could technically do both of these and grow them up, and you have very good chances of creating that Suma pied that I was mentioning just now. Moving right along to this Wookie lesser clown, also from Frameshift Reptiles. It looks like it is also potentially Redstripe or YellowBelly. I gotta believe it's at least one of the 2 for sure, if not both, quite frankly. Look at this animal. Like this whitewashed sides. It's basically just like this slightly orangish brown, like sand going down the back of the animal, almost like a stripe. And then these white walled sides jump all the way up and even go over the pattern just ever so slightly. Usually I see it end like at the pattern, but then the pattern itself is pretty strong. It's not faded out by this white in any way, shape, or form. It is pretty crisp yellow. It's a really, really gorgeous animal. The Wookie and the lesser just really tag team to create something amazing here. And like I said, I'm pretty certain that you're going to find some luck in this being Redstripe and YellowBelly. And quite frankly, again, you can test for both of them. Something definitely worthwhile. They actually dropped the price on quite a few of these, and using our code Rhino. So you say test for YellowBelly, using code Rhino in your comments of it, just say code Rhino. I'd also like to use that to test for free on the Redstripe, because it's basically a BOGO. Buy one, get one for free with our code with RGI. So definitely take advantage of that. It's a perfect one to use that on. In fact, if you wanted to pick up this girl here, this is a good good looking animal. So gorgeous. And if you want to work the Wookie project, clown is the place to do it. And this is a really, really good girl to start with, or to just add into your collection, quite frankly. So much upside here. Keeping with clowns would be this spot-nosed YellowBelly Redstripe Fire Clown. And again, another one right here. Without the fire though, so you can see the crazy difference that creates, also from Reptile Creations. I believe we've shown them off quite a bit. They had a lot of those sunsets earlier, in fact. Very cool animals here. They actually have a special line of asphalt, if you hadn't ever heard. It's a very cool, unique one. I often see it paired in those freeway combos, and it changes it up. It's almost like the lines along the back kind of get turned sideways. Very cool little fact there, but I definitely wanted to show these off in that when you're looking at this, realize that you are missing one gene to be a Pompeii, and that gene is Black Pastel. I know it doesn't show it here, but it is it. They just probably forgot to put it in there. So one gene, obviously it has fire instead, but one gene difference creates the Pompeii, which is right here. Isn't that crazy? Put them side by side here and realize that's the difference. It's just one genetic is the major difference between these two animals right here, and you start to realize how much amazing things that these combos can do in working together, how much of a difference this makes. And that's no shade on these, they're beautiful. You see that kind of color popping in down here already. There's lava starting to erupt, the building blocks of creating, well, this, and you see it just now, this climbing up into the whole body of the animal, and just creating arguably one of the best looking combos that have ever been created, especially amongst clown. And again, you see the price here. These are going to be gotten for a little bit more of a steal, I think. Really cool opportunity. One that I will definitely keep an eye on. It just kind of depends on which one you're going for. Obviously, there's a female and a male here, so if you need a male to work into your collection, to try to create that, if you got a Black Pastel clown with maybe some other stuff in there, you get the male. And again, if you've got a male with Black Pastel in it, and you get this female here. Just try not to go fire to fire. If you already got a male with fire, you don't want to hit the super fire and get a pretty much all white animal. That'd be very disappointing to hit the super fire. Not that there's anything wrong with super fire, but of course it's pretty much an all white snake, so not the way you want to go with that. But getting the fire in this in general, that would be nice because it would brighten it up and create a different color palette there. Not quite like, but similar to how the special Pompeiis changed up the color on the Pompeiis originally. Cool opportunity here. Like again, I said, I don't know how much these will go for. There's no bids on it right now. I don't know how long these have been up. Sometimes I think people upload them with different hours, but two beautiful animals with the potential to create something legendary. On to our final three here would be this Cypress YellowBelly Hypo Clown. And man, Hypo Clowns are so darn beautiful. I can't wait to create my first ones here. And Cypress and YellowBelly just make this look even better. It looks almost like a beehive or something. I don't know, maybe not. I'm way off base here, but it kind of just flirts with the same potential and looks as the Pompeii we were just looking at. Very beautiful colors. It does have a reserve on it, so usually what I say is bid up to where you're comfortable. Cypress is an amazing one in clown, and the Cypress and the YellowBelly just make this animal look gorgeous. The Hypo just comes in there and puts the final frosting touch on there to create something that's just so darn gorgeous. Something that always makes me amazed is just how many combos are out there that we can create that we don't even scratch the surface of, even with clowns. I mean, it's like this still, the Pompeii is relatively newer in terms of when it was made. So there's so much you can do, and Hypo is definitely a good one to do that with. Cypress is just so glorious of a genetic, and YellowBelly, I mean, need I say more? We just made a whole video about genes that look very subtle, but do so much in combos. And I mean, this is just proving my point even more. A gorgeous animal, very beautiful female, will work well in any clown and Hypo project, I can assure you that. Second to last one would be this Hurricane Clown. Also again from Reptile Creations. They are definitely dropping some amazing things this week. Hurricane Clowns are so cool just because of what they can do. And I know this picture here doesn't show a whole bunch to it, but look at their eye. It has an eye stripe. Clowns are supposed to wipe away the eye stripes, right? We actually showed off an incredible one from Windy City Morphs. It's a super hurricane. Orange Dream YellowBelly Clown. Also ended up being Het Pied, and just these sides are so gorgeous. But look at the eye stripes on the face. It's just like it just kind of makes them wavy and thickens them up quite a bit, and even brings the nose stuff back, kind of just kind of connects it there right on top of the nose. And again, most clowns don't mess around anymore. Most clowns don't do that. They have like the top of the head pattern. It definitely affects the head pattern. Obviously, it's one of the most famous things that it does, but the eye stripes are kind of there. So that's super cool and unique because it brings it in there and just creates some wackiness. So there's a lot of upside to this animal here in that, because you can start creating some of these awesome combos. Hurricane is crazy. Just obviously creates these kind of hurricane-like swirls along the animal in some cases, but just does so much more, especially in clown, the unique interaction that it does. That's always cool when you get something that does that, and it's just like, wow, why does it do that? But it definitely draws attention, and it makes itself unique and stands apart from other things. I think it definitely brings in some nice oranges, works very well in those bright combinations, as you can kind of see here, but works well in a way that you can also create some cool contrast. Like this one here has a lot of dark to it. It's like a shadow, honestly. It's very, very bright, but then shadows. A lot of cool contrast here, and everybody knows I love contrast, so really cool upside to this animal. Female at that, so there's a lot of really powerful males you could put this into and create some absolute bangers. And finally would be this pair of Monsoon Ultramel Hypo Clown projects. The male is a triple het. Whenever you're looking at this, if it's 1.0, it means male. 0.1 is females, and that way if you know this, if it says 2.0, it means 2 females. But anyways, this is a triple het Ultramel Hypo Clown, and it's 50% het Monsoon. It's already a lot of power to it, even without that Monsoon. The female is Leopard, 50% het Monsoon. So obviously it doesn't have the other stuff going towards it, but still a lot of upside on a triple het anytime you get it. A lot of times with the Monsoons, there are Monsoon markers, and a lot of it is this, quite frankly, this pattern that climbs over the top of it. Look at it doing it a whole bunch. It's never a guarantee because they are unique animals. I've seen normals that kind of do stuff like that. It is leopard, of course, so that does jumble up the pattern a bit, but usually you still don't have this climbing over the top. Same thing kind of here. You got a lot of pattern kind of on the top and stuff like that. So their markers are pretty strong in my opinion, but a really nice one if you want to work the Monsoon project. This could potentially end up doing that. Now, of course, you are still kind of rolling the dice on that, but since there are some markers, you can at least take some of the guesswork out of it, and it does have strong markers. Just don't want to say that that's a guarantee, obviously. The upside here is that the male will pass on het clown, het hypo, and het ultramel 50% of the time, so you can test the babies to see how lucky you got in terms of those passing along. So if you get yourself a visual Monsoon, and then you can prove out that Ultramel, Hypo, and Clown, you can kind of work those into the mix, and maybe you get lucky and get a decent amount of those. Man, that would be amazing, because those go well with it, because honestly, Monsoon is not one that you can affect all that much. Clowns are really nice because it does some crazy, like, little starry stuff on the head. Very, very cool. Hypo is good because it affects the shading and brightens the animal up. And Ultramel is great because, well, it brings in that beautiful Ultramel color. So these are all nice recessives that would be good to work into the Monsoon project for sure. Not for everybody, for sure, but this has got the potential to go for really, really cheap, and has the potential to create something that is not really, really cheap. So that'll do it for this week's auctions. I hope you enjoyed it. We always ask if you've ever won anything in the past auctions from watching our videos, or if there's something you just wanted to say, hey, yeah, I won this at one point, let us know in the comments below. If you wanted to learn a little bit about the genetics that we talked about today, you can actually check that out right here and here.